welcome you to this new lesson of P7 Term 1. Right now, we are shifting to a new topic, having closed the other chapter of school holidays. We are now crossing the second topic in our P7 syllabus, and that is letters. Some people call it letter writing, but the topic is letters. Under letters, you remember you covered something to do with letters in your previous classes. That is P5, even P6. If the teacher was merciful, I want to use that word merciful, he must have talked about letters, especially informal letters. This being a new topic, we don't want to start right from strange content. Like I've told you, the P6 teacher might have said something about informal letters. Still here, we need to first look at or review what was taught to us in P5. Yeah, it is in the P5 curriculum, letter writing, and in P5, you only look at informal letters. P7 repeats letters, that is informal letters, but still, in P7, we go an extra mile and we talk more about other types of letters, as we shall see later in this topic. So, we want to start by reviewing what is connected to what we covered in P5 and some bit of revision in P6. So, today we are looking at informal letters. Informal letters. You are now aware that informal letters are those that are written to friends, relatives, or other people we know very well. So those are informal letters. But they have another name. If you don't want to call them informal letters, you can call them personal letters. You can call them personal letters. Personal letters. Another one may not want to call them informal letters, may not also want to call them personal letters, so that person can call them friendly letters. Friendly letters. So we call them either friendly letters, personal letters, or informal letters. These three terminologies all mean the same. So under informal letters, as our subtopic, we have a list of vocabulary. Yeah, don't limit your knowledge to only this. There are other vocabulary, other new words you may think of that are connected to informal letters. For the teacher, he has brought you this list as it appears in your workbook on page 40, 41, and 42. So we have the first one as address. Address. Next is envelope. Sincerely, that this envelope is a noun. Let me put N in brackets. This envelope is a noun. Next is sincerely. Relatives, body, postage, first name, yes, first name, envelope, which is now a different word from this. This one has E, this one has no E at the end, and this is therefore a verb. To envelope something is to put it in an envelope. We go affectionately, then friends, date, inform, stamp, occasion, yours sincerely. Yours sincerely. Classmates, reply. You can read it as reply, which is a noun, or reply, which is a verb. Reply, noun. Reply, verb. Finally, ask. You take turns with your maybe partner or friend around and pronounce the above words. Yes, you need to master the spellings. How do you, the pronunciations, obviously, as well as the spellings. How do you master them? You need to practice spelling them and pronouncing them. Part of the activity is question 2, which is look up the meaning of each of the words in the list above. Look up the meaning of each of these words given in the list. This time you may leave or you may ignore the meanings that the teacher gave you in the workbook, page 40, 41, and 42. Yes, those definitions are given, even the examples are given. However, don't limit your understanding to what the teacher has given you. Take time to go through your dictionary. Yes, because you can't need to make research. Go through your dictionary, compare the meanings you have in your workbook to the dictionary meaning, and that will widen your knowledge. Next, last in our activity here, construct a sentence using each of the above words. Yes, use these words to construct a sentence. But we have the other additional activities, that is in our books, and you find them on page 43. Page 43. The definitions are clearly given. The additional activities are also given on page 43 of your workbook. So, briefly, this is what I can say about informal letters. So, having looked at informal letters and that brief introduction, we take you to conditional sentences. Conditional sentences. Why are they called conditional sentences? They are called so because a certain condition must be fulfilled for an action to take place or to happen. So we have three kinds of conditional sentences. We have three kinds of conditional sentences. Some people call them if clauses or if conditional clauses, whatever you want to call it. The teacher has chosen to call it conditional sentences. So we are saying there are three kinds of conditional sentences. That is type 1 or if 1. Other people want to call it if clause 1. So this was covered sufficiently in P5 and P6. But the teacher still in P7 will have something to say about if 1, maybe revision, which is not bad. We have type 2, which is also called if 2. Some people prefer calling it if 2. If 2 is also a type of conditional sentences, and the details of it are given in the table, like you can see. There's something we forgot to add into the table, like this line. But as we add the line, allow me to tell you that we have another type of conditional sentence, that is type 3. Type 3 is what your friends or your previous teachers once called if 3 or if clause 3, whatever you want to call it. So each type of if clause or each type of conditional sentence has a way the words are supposed to be arranged when constructing a sentence in that specific if clause. For example, from our table here, you see if clause 1, if clause 2, and if clause 3. From if clause 1, what do we see? We have a sentence under each if clause. By the way, before I go to the example sentences, allow me to remind you about this, that each if clause or each type has two parts. The sentence in each type has two parts. That sentence must have a part we call the if clause. Then there is a part we will call the main clause. The if clause consists of the word if. I repeat, the if clause in each if sentence consists of the word if. Then the main clause is that last clause that comes after the if clause, the last part that comes after the if clause. We have an example here where we have if we wake up early, that's the if clause. Got the main clause, we shall attend the lesson. We shall attend the lesson. From our previous classes, I believe our teachers emphasized this. If 1 or condition 1 has an if clause which is made up of these words. And now I'll go and explain this better. From if 1, the if clause is like this. If 1 has if plus the present simple plus the present simple. So we are done with the if clause. Plus what? Plus future simple. This one I believe the P5 teacher talked about Yes, when he was introducing if clauses. So if one is if plus present simple plus future simple. This is the main clause. Main clause. Then this is the if clause. So we have we wake up, and we wake up is in the present simple, or what we call the everyday tense. Next, we shall attend is part of our main clause, and that is the future simple. I believe that kind of reminder should be enough. We go to if 2, where in if 2 we talk about this kind of sentence. We are changing this very sentence to if 2 to avoid confusion. You may say, teacher, an example where you had a different kind of sentence, then 2 you brought a different one. I got confused. To avoid that confusion, the teacher has chosen to use exactly the same sentence. So if 2, changing this very sentence to if 2, we have if we woke up early, we would attend the lesson. We would attend the lesson. Check what has happened. We wake up has changed to we woke up. And that means we have changed it from present simple to past simple. Where do I write? Taking back a little because we have already covered this. We are now looking at if 2, which has this pattern. If plus what we see here, and that is past simple. If plus past simple plus what next? What next do we see? We would attend. We change from shall attend to would attend, and that is plus would plus attend is in infinitive form. Plus infinitive. That's why you see past simple and would plus infinitive. This being our if clause, and this being our main clause. That is for if 2. If 2 is summarized in this kind of expression. Lastly, we talk about condition 3, if 3, or if clause 3, which talks about, okay, we are changing still the same sentence from if 1 to if 2 to if 3. If we had woken up early, we would have attended the lesson. Meaning, we did not wake up early, so we did not attend the lesson. But if we had woken up early, we would have attended the lesson. We are changing from we woke up to we had woken up. Which tense is that? We worked with the tenses in P6. Let's talk about if now. We have if plus that tense you have seen, which is had plus a past participle verb. That is obviously past perfect. So it is if plus past perfect plus what next? We would have attended the lesson. We would attend to would have attended. And how do we summarize that in our pattern? We call it would plus this is would have plus a past participle verb. Let me summarize it like that, or abbreviate it like that. So it is if plus past perfect plus would have plus a past participle verb, or a part 3 verb, as I want to call it. We go to this as our main clause. Then we now have this as our if clause. We now have this as our main clause. I believe the summary is enough in addition to that to show you the pattern we follow when constructing sentences in if 1, if 2, and if 3. Okay, briefly, this was just the introduction. But we want to look at the details of F3 because I believe our P5, P6 teachers covered a lot or did a lot of work to do with F1 and 2. Now F3 is here. Condition 3 or F3. We are saying it is used to express an unfulfilled condition in the past. We use F3 to express an unfulfilled condition in the past. The pattern is what the teacher has been explaining about, and that is if plus past perfect plus would have and what? A past participle verb. That is what the teacher has abbreviated as PPV. Right from that side of the explanation, what the math teacher has called side one. So we have an activity concerning this on page 45, 46 and 47. You will find the activities to do with F1, activities about F2, activities about F3. What is important is follow the pattern. Follow the pattern for F1. If the sentence is in F1, you can easily tell if you look at the way the words have been assembled, the tense they have used. We can also look at a sentence that is in F2. You can notice it by looking at that tense used. The order of words this side. Still in F3, the order of words matter and the tenses used. So be careful. Do not complete a sentence that began with a past simple and then you take it to this level. For example, if I say, if Sharon went home, complete. And you see, someone brings in this. She, this is she, would have seen her mother. If Sharon went home, she would have seen her mother. Sounds good, but you've committed a crime. This is went home. Sharon went home. And this is F2. Why? It is in the past simple. That is F2. Now see, would have seen. Would have plus a past participle verb. And that's a pattern for F3. That means this is F3. And this means your answer is perfectly wrong. Purely wrong. So how are we supposed to complete that? Because these questions, such questions are part of your activity. If Sharon went home, complete sensibly in F2. Because we began with F2, you must complete in F2. She used would plus an infinitive. She would. Which infinitive are we thinking about? From this we would have seen. Obviously I get the word see, which is the main verb, and change it back to its infinitive or base form. She would see her what? Her mother. Past simple in the if clause, that is F2. Would plus infinitive, that's still F2. And this means my sentence is 100% correct. Okay, that is about further explanation concerning F2. So we have that activity about if clauses or conditional sentences on pages 45 up to 47. Having done that, I think I can now go to the next chapter. Okay, according to your workbook, we see picture composition. I don't want to discuss this with you. Sorry. In fact, I don't want to discuss this here because this is something I want to do together with the class I teach. So then when you come back, you meet the teacher and he will take you through the picture composition. Yes, should be question and answer. I ask you, you answer. I ask you, you answer. Yes, I don't want to stand before you and give you everything here, do this, do this, do this. Then you fill in things that may not be easily understood by the teacher when you report back. So, picture composition, you'll have all the reasons to skip it. And you go to page 50, where you see abbreviations. Abbreviations, I'll tell you to go ahead and answer. Reason, you have dictionaries at your home. Yes. any candidate in this world must have a dictionary. Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, that's 9th edition. We also have Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. The dictionaries we are talking about are the very ones you need as a candidate. Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. You need that. Without those words, please, I request that you do not bother to buy. You may buy a dictionary that is good enough for a child in P3. Yes, we call them pocket dictionaries. Put it in the pocket, fix there, you walk around, you reach P7, the teacher says you look up this phrasal verb, you can't see it. You look up this abbreviation, you can't see it. So if you have Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, that's 9th edition, you'll be able to access these abbreviations. The other one is Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. You'll be able to see them. Still, Macmillan Dictionary for Advanced Learners will also give you what you want. So use those dictionaries to get the abbreviations or the full forms of those abbreviations given on page 40 of the workbook. Next, we see page 51, which has something to do with writing informal letters. Writing informal letters. Let's take a look at what was, I think, already covered in other classes, P5 and P6. The teacher will add something strange maybe, so we need to pay attention. Whether the teacher heard for me, now that I missed, the teacher taught in P5 when I was dozing, when I had gone out for what I used to call a short call. What do I do? And this time when I'm left with not many days to complete my primary course. Just need to listen so that you avoid regrets. Do your work the right way to avoid regrets. So whatever I missed in P5, P7 covers it, and you get ready for PLE. So we are looking at this, writing informal letters. Writing informal letters, we say the informal letters are friendly letters. You can use the word friendly. We say the informal letters are personal letters. So you can use the word personal. They are informal letters, friendly letters, or personal letters. We are looking at how we can write them. Which page, on which page are we? We are on page 51 of that workbook. So we are looking at the main parts of an informal letter. Yes, if you're writing a letter to a friend, or to your parent, or to a relative, especially one who is very close, which words are you supposed to use? What are those key areas that you must not miss? Those are the parts of the informal letter the teacher wants to talk about. We have the writer's address. The writer's address. I'm the one writing the letter. It means it's my address that must appear in the letter as I've talked about it here. The writer's address. The one writing the letter should write his or her address first. Let's look at how we can write the address. An example is here. I should use, I think, the school address. Reason? Most candidates are used to writing school addresses. Most candidates are used to writing letters. Yes, from one school to another. I'm writing a letter to another friend who is somewhere. Let me say, I'm at school again, and I'm writing a letter to my parent. I prefer using my school address because most of the time, is being a candidate, you'll be at school. So I just use the school address. And the school address in this case is here. The school address starts with the name of the place where the writer stays or works. So that's the name of the place, but it's not enough for the address. Meaning, the second part I'll think about is the box number. P.O. Box 30008. Then the town where the post office is, and that is Kampala. This is my address. Trainer Charlie Primary School, P.O. Box 30008, Kampala. There are two ways of writing our address. And one of them is this one. There's another one, but okay, this one is called open punctuation. Open punctuation. Teacher, what do you mean by open punctuation? I will not explain that. I will not explain that. Instead, I'll tell you the opposite of open punctuation is closed punctuation. So look at the difference. Before you ask the teacher to give you the difference, look at the board. Train up a child. Primary school. P.O. Box 300, that is 0008, Kampala. Is there any difference? Totally no difference. The difference is they are similar. Okay, let's create the difference. That's the difference. The difference is here we see strictly no comma, no full stop. Here we see a comma, and a full stop. And this is the opposite of what you see above, meaning it is closed. We say closed door and an open door. Don't talk of an open door. An open door. So you talk about closed punctuation and open punctuation. You can choose any you want, only that closed, which I dislike, much as it is correct, has a lot of rules. Comma. I put a comma here and I forget here. I put a full stop here, no mark. That means no work done. You decided to punctuate using closed punctuation and you forgot to punctuate one of the lines in your address. That means your answer is you are going to lose a mark here. And normally the address carries 1 mark. That's about the address and how to write it. There are two ways we have looked at. Open punctuation, no full stops, no commas. Closed punctuation with a punctuation mark at the end of each line of your address. Our next part of an informal letter or a personal letter or a friend letter is the date. In the date, isn't it strange that the P.7 teacher wants to teach how to write the date? The date you first wrote in your nursery, day 1. Okay, we are here looking at the date. There are different ways of writing the date, but I'll talk about this, which I prefer. Today's, okay, we may not use today's date. Think of any other date. And this is the date I prefer in my letter. 3rd July 2021. This is an example. It's not the date today. 3rd July 2021. Mess up and add a full stop. Just know you're committing is a crime, because in letter writing, date writing, a punctuation is not a must. It's not part of what we require in our date. So kick it out and remain with a clean date, no punctuation. There are other ways of writing it. However, I'm saying this is what I prefer. So we now go to the third part, which is the salutation. After the date, I forgot to tell you, you have to skip a lane after writing the address. Skip 1 lane just after the address before you write the date. Still after the date, skip a lane. Skip a lane, or you call it a line. Before you write the salutation. The salutation, this is just an example. Dear who? Greeting, salutation. Dear
maybe Angela. Let's use Angel. Dear Angel. Okay, dear Angel is my salutation. Another can say, for example, you're writing the letter to your dad, dear, D-A-D, dear dad. This is also part of open punctuation. If you want to use closed, don't forget the comma. If you want to use closed, don't forget the comma. However, if you started with open, we recommend that you continue with your open punctuation, no comma here. We go. So, like I told you, I prefer open. We go like that. Dear who are examples of salutations. Dear sister. Dear Aunt Mary. And many others, others in that category. We now got the fourth part, and that is the body of our letter. In the body of the letter, we talk about three main parts, and that is the introduction, part of the body, the main reason for writing the letter, and finally the conclusion. Yes, the body has the introduction, the main reason for writing the letter, and finally the conclusion. Because the body has a lot of words, we'll just look at that in the sample letter we have in our workbook, and that is on page 52. We have a sample letter there in our workbook, page 52. So we got the complementary clause, which complementary clause has something to do with exactly the stuff you have in your workbook. Yours who, that's the conclusion. Yours, let's say, affectionately, friendly letters. Affectionately. You can even use yours just like that. Yours, finished. Plus other endings, as you're going to see in your workbook. This stuff I'm explaining is on page 51. Having looked at the complementary clause, we now got the writer's name. The writer's name, like the teacher said, I was written on the board, is always the first name. First name. Choose to use only your first name when writing an informal letter. The writer's name. The writer, let's say the writer is Kasule Ivan. What is the first name in Kasule Ivan? It is Kasule Ivan. Kasule is the surname. This one I'm aware. Surname. And that means the remaining name is the first name. Yes, the first name is your English name, or the name you were given but that does belong to your clan, and that's your first name. Yes. The best way to understand it is your English name or your Arabic name. Yes. The name you're given in church. First name. Normally, this is the name we want to use. Yours, Ivan. You don't need to skip a name just after that. Yours, Ivan, that's my name. The writer is Kasule Ivan, but he signs the letter as Ivan, and he goes. That's done and dusted. So that's all with the parts of an informal letter. We have a sample informal letter in our workbook, like I've told you. That's page 52. And after that, there's something to do with comprehension. Comprehension, you're going to read, see how the words were arranged in this letter, and you'll know, oh, this is the best way to write an informal letter. That is now on page 53. You're supposed to read the letter carefully and in full sentences, answer the questions that follow. But as you read, don't really mind about answering the questions and you excel. See, learn something, and when you're told to write a letter tomorrow, you'll borrow this idea in the workbook and use it to write your letter, and you excel. God bless you as you attempt that exercise on page 53. Having done that, I'll now take you to page 50 what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still about letter writing. We have an activity, another activity which is on page 61, like you saw on the board. Page 61 presents you an activity about letter writing, and this is about just filling in. You choose words given in the box to fill in and complete the sentence, the letter sensibly. The words are given to you. Your work is just to choose the right one and fill it in, and you have no problems getting the answers right. Okay, so let's look at something to do with using hardly. Using hardly. On which page are we? Page 61. We are still on page 61. After that activity about letter writing, I now take you to the use of hardly. You can now take off this because we are done with letter writing stuff today. Informal letters. Using hardly. You're saying use hardly to mean almost no or almost not. You can use hardly to mean almost no or almost not. So you have examples here. Questions that require hardly are said with such words that require us to use hardly are said with such words. Almost no, almost not. Sometimes you'll find words like very little, which is also connected to this. So be careful while reading and make sure you understand what the question is all about before you start answering it. Setting, we use words that are connected to these very ones I've talked about. These expressions, almost no, almost not, or very little. That's about hardly. Examples, we have, there is very little water in the jar. There is very little water in the jar. The teacher gives you such a question and tells you to rewrite it beginning or using hardly within the sentence. When they tell you to write that sentence using hardly, what do you do? Look at the pattern or the flow of words the teacher has used in his examples, or the other examples given on page 61 and 62 of our workbook, and you'll see what is meant to be done. We have there is very little water in the jar. Rewrite that sentence using hardly. And our answer here is there is hardly any water in the jar. There is hardly any water in the jar. You see, hardly, instead of no or little or not, there is this word any. Then there are the other words for the way they appeared in that question, water in the jar. So our answer is there is hardly any water in the jar. Next, we can use hardly within or at the beginning. So we have our sentence here beginning, hardly. And the order of words has now slightly changed. Hardly is there any water in the jar. I repeat, hardly is there any water in the jar. That is about the use of hardly. But there are other sentences that require to use hardly, as seen on page 62. That is the activity. Let's look at this other example, which is example, our second example is example 1 and example 2, which reads, there is almost no truth in what you say. Let me skip that because it is already in your workbook, you already got the answer. They rarely write official letters. They rarely write official letters. They rarely write official letters. Almost no, almost not. Now almost don't. Rarely.
change, or rather sentence using hardly. Your answer will come out like this. They hardly. Hardly means the same as rare in this case. They hardly write official letters. Mind about the spelling of official? C-I-A-L. They hardly write official letters. Begin hardly. What will happen? Hardly. Don't say hardly they write. Hardly do they write official letters. Now in this kind of sentence, in this sentence formation, we will not require the use of any in our sentence. Hardly do they write official letters. Hardly do they write official letters. Briefly, I don't want to go beyond this level, but you will see an activity about this on page 62 of the workbook, after which you'll have something to do with a composition on the same page 62. So there's a composition, a guided composition, which you normally call a jumbled story. You'll get it on page 62. Try it out. So next time we meet, the teacher will discuss the use of or else. That will be on page 63. There's some stuff we've not yet covered concerning adverbs. Yes, adverbs, and it's my prayer that we meet again and we cover them sufficiently the right way when we are together at school. God bless you. Till we meet next time as you try those activities given to you. See you.